Welcome to the Here and Now Show. I am your host, Lavonda Ray. Thank you. And if you tuned into the Here and Now Show, I'm trying to adjust my microphone. You know that the Here and Now Show is a place where I've taken real life event and turned them into a positive living. If you've been rocking with me, you know that if you have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave it in the message box. All voices matter, you know that. So with that being said, let's start the show. Welcome back. Welcome back. I feel blessed and you should feel blessed too, as always. You guys know this is a place where voices matter. And if this is your first time joining, welcome to the family. I am so glad that you are joining me today. Whether you're listening from your car or whether you're in the house cooking or spending time with me, I do appreciate it. So grab that coffee, grab that snack, or grab that little tea or that little special snack you've been hiding from them kids. I see you, baby girl. There's no judgment here. We together on this show, this platform. As far as my speech, on this platform, we heal together. Sometimes we laugh together, and sometimes I might step on a few toes. So if I happen to step on your toes, don't be sending me a letter in the mail talking about you need a bill for new shoes. But today's conversation is one that is necessary. I can relate to it. And hopefully, you guys can relate to it to some way or fashion, or that we could come in feeling a lot lighter than what we felt when we originally walked in. What if the person that you were supposed to love was slowing you down, breaking you down slowly, piece by piece? What if the silence that was in your relationship is not peace, but is fear? And what if the most powerful thing you can do right now, the most powerful thing you could do right now is to not fight harder, but to choose you. Today, I'm talking about, or rather, something that we need to talk about: domestic violence awareness, self love awareness, and self discipline awareness. Because those three things are connected. I lived it, I survived it, and if you can understand that those things happen in those orders, then life will be so much easier for you. Today I'm speaking my truth. I'm speaking other people's truth, stories that people have told me that I'm going to share with you guys. Other people's experiences, my experiences. And so, with that being said, let's let a little jazz play us in. Because if you've been listening to me or you tuned in, I like a little jazz before we get started. So, with that being said, let's take a break. Hello, today's my snake's birthday. I do not know how to sing, but happy birthday to your snake. We're going to take a few seconds to jazz before we get into the subject. So, let's just hear a little bit of that, vibe it out. And how are you doing? It's amazing you have a snake that has a birthday. Good animal keeper. Good job. Welcome back. Welcome back. Oh, your snake's name is Popcorn. What a fun name. Welcome back. Now, if today's conversation finds you in a painful season, I want you to hear this. You are not weak. You are not. Oh, it's because it's corn. Oh, that's funny. That's a good one. But sometimes abuse doesn't start with a punch in the face. Sometimes it starts with insults, isolating you, guilty, making you feel smaller than you are until you don't even trust your own voice. And that's why awareness, it matters. Awareness can save your life. Self-love can rebuild your life, and self-discipline can protect it. So I have a few short stories that I wanted to share with you guys. That's important to me. Before I get into it, you said you name your snake Popcorn because my snake is a corn snake. Oh, I've never heard of corn snakes. Interesting. Maybe you can tell me more about it later. Um, and so, like I said, I have a short story for you guys. Something that relates to this topic, something that I have dealt with myself and made me better on the other end. Now, I don't know if some of you guys have tuned into my show before. Um, I had a part one to this episode. Um, And this conversation, about a year back, I've revisited this conversation. I had this conversation and I rekindled this conversation again. Um, I had talked about me being in a relationship when I was in college. Oh, so it's like a chameleon? Great. And so, like I said, I was starting off, if you guys remember, my last show, I talked about the toxic relationship that I was in when I was in college. So I'm going to go back to that, because it's also on the grounds of, awareness of domestic. So like I said, if you guys remember, I'll just start over again. I was fresh 21. I was in my 20s and he was in his 30s, late 30s. We met. I was walking down the street. It was simple. I was just walking down the street, walking through campus because I had just moved to that city. So I had, I had a new home, new friends. Well, I really didn't have any friends, but I had a new home and I was starting a new school and it was really, really great. So, I'm strolling along, minding my business, being me, and bam, he pulls up. Mind you, I'm on foot. He's in a car. We have communication. We chop it up. Speed pass. We chop it up, meaning we exchange numbers. Sometimes people might think chop it up. You guys got freaky. No, we chopped it up, and we exchanged numbers, and we talked on the phone for about a good 2 weeks, and then shortly after that, I became his lover. Okay, let me see. You said okay. Oh, well, I hope that when it comes back from the vet that it'll be okay. And so, I'm in this relationship and I'm like, this is a sealed deal. This is it. I was happy. We laughed, we chat, we cried. During movies. We would watch movies and we would cry together. It was so romantic at that time. We were doing like couple shit. Just the thought of that kind of makes my skin crawl, but that is my truth. Every time I say it, it's like, ugh, actually dated that person. Ugh, hello to growth. But in my mind, our relationship was supposed to be, where love grows into something positive, right? How are you doing, Isabel? But instead of it going into something possible and possibilities that I had went into the relationship thinking this is going to be a great relationship. We get along. He held it together like this is the best. But now some of y'all might know, as I've said before, that I thought that I had the greatest guy, and for some reason, I felt like I was dating the devil's son. I know. You're probably like, girl, the devil's son. Yes, yes. Because sometimes evil doesn't just walk in and say, hey, I'm here to destroy your life. But sometimes they show up with a nice smile and nice clothes and nice hair and smell good. But they don't come and tell you, hey, I'm coming here to destroy your peace. Now, let me explain. For about 6 months of our relationship, I was the air that he breathed. You know, um, I was his peaceful sunshine. Like he would call me beautiful every morning, every afternoon. I was hearing this so much, it became like, oh, it became a part of me because he gave me that many compliments. And we would go shopping for clothes. That was the best. I loved to go shopping, and it was something new. We were shopping, we was having fun, a new relationship, a new atmosphere, and then things shifted. I'm not sure if he had a bad dream prior to this shift, or if there was something going on in his inner spirit that I did not see. So I understand. You take your time. And so as this relationship started to shift, like again, I don't know if he one day woke up with a bad dream or he just woke up with bad intentions for me. But he was slowly changing. At first, I thought, oh, maybe it's his age. I'm 21 and he's like 30. He's like an old ass, but it wasn't his age. It wasn't at all. Either way, he was changing, and I wasn't sure exactly how to deal with that change. Like I said, I had my own place, and he had his own. Now, I'm glad you're back. And he had his own place, but he stayed close to the campus. So I spent 85% of my time over there, at his house. And I remember when the situation changed completely. I was sitting in the mirror and I'm doing my hair before school, and he's standing behind me, right? flag on the ground, but he's standing behind me, and I'm thinking, this man's crazy as hell. Why is he standing behind me? But I didn't think he was crazy, crazy, like crazy enough to put them hands on me, right? So I'm not thinking that, I'm just thinking, God, he's crazy standing over me. And while I'm doing my hair, he whispers down and he says to me, um, school's not a fashion show. Well, if you guys are learning about me and to know more about Lavonda, Lavonda is not, I'm a tough cookie. You're not going to just tell me, sit down, and then I obey. I don't, I believe there's a thin line between someone telling you what to do and someone asking you to do something. Very thin line. If you do not separate the two, people will treat you accordingly. You don't want people to just talk to you any type of way. And so, with that being said, he whispered in my ear, "School's not a fashion show." Well, I clapped back. And he was a bunch of names under the sun. I tell you, he was this, she was that. And I thought, this man's crazy. And at the same time, while I'm laughing and I'm throwing shots, he smacked me in the back of my head so hard, I lost the whole thought. I'm talking, bam, shattered my whole brain, shattered my brain, right? And now I'm like, what just happened here? This man just knocked the taste out of my mouth. He, without even a simple I'm about to smack the taste out your mouth. I didn't have any clue. I was just stunned. See, because the physical abuse started, right? Because at first it was more simple. His controlling were doing things that were in little increments. It was little, you know, why are you doing this? Why are you wearing that to school? Or who are you want to be around? Like, what are you talking about? I just met friends. I just moved here. So his insecurity blankets was much deeper than what I could understand. You know, and I can't tell you what to expect to do because, like I said, I was never the type of person, I'm not the type of person that you could just say, hey, I said sit down. And you think I'm going to sit down? No, you should probably sit down. You're doing all this yelling and screaming. Maybe you should sit your ass down and calm down. Why telling me what to do? You know, you don't need that, and then all you needed at that time is I'm going through and I'm laying out this situation. Like, what is happening? I just got smacked in the back of my head. He just talked crazy to me, but I'm still here. I tell you, when I tell you guys, he hit me so hard. I swear I lost all thoughts. I jumped up when he hit me in my head, baby. I jumped up like a maniac. I was screaming. You would have thought that somebody was chasing me. I was screaming and I was on his ass like flies on shit. Do you hear me? But I wasn't going down without a fight. Well, I went down. I definitely went down. It wasn't a good fight. It was a fight that I lost. Several fights that we had that I lost. Um, I tried, um, and so the thing was that I always thought to myself, I didn't. Why am I fighting you back to prove how tough I am? Because at that moment, maybe I was trying to prove, I'm really tough, but you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You don't have to prove how tough you are because sometimes people think strength means that you can endure everything, and that's not what it means. That does not mean no. Sometimes strength means saying, I'm done. Or, it took me a minute, to get to that point, and I kept telling myself and I kept telling myself. And I was going through this relationship for about almost 2 years. And I'm thinking, do I really want to continue to go through this abuse? I don't want to cry no more. I want to laugh. I deserve to laugh. And I asked myself, do I really want the next 5 years of my life to be like this? Like the last two? Do I want to feel depressed every day? Do I want to feel less valued every day? Do I want to be talked down to, walked over, wondering what mood he may or may not be in? I didn't want that. I did not want that, and no one should want that for themselves either because you didn't. You are not designed to be on this earth for people to hurt you. We are designed to love, to live abundantly and purpose in our lives. I did not want to wake up feeling like I wasn't worthy. Hell no. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to keep waiting for someone to change their life so I could feel comfortable again. No, it wasn't that I don't wait on someone to change. You change, you get gone, you know? And it wasn't easy, and I'll say that again. It wasn't easy. People say, You know, it's easy. Why didn't you just leave? Or why didn't you tell nobody? Sometimes for me, I didn't leave because of fear. You know, you don't know what somebody has to walk away from when you're coming in their company. You never know what storm they've been through. Sometimes people stay longer than they're supposed to because they are afraid. That is a thing. You know, I didn't want to just, I mean, it's not like I could just walk in the house and say, I'm grabbing my things and I'm getting out of here. And he let me leave. No, no, no. I literally ran for my life. I ran for my life. When I tell you I was running for my life, I was running next to Tina Turner. And if you've ever seen the movie, you know that Tina Turner was running for her life. She had one too many of them. Now, I wasn't as beat up in that form, but the mental mind was still there. He had so much control, and I could no longer accept that control, and neither should you. But when I tell you I ran for my life, I literally ran. I ran right to the police station. I ran like Forrest Gump. I ran straight to the police station, filed a report, and left that town. Now, some people are not that easy. Not everyone gets a chance to run and flee because sometimes when domestic happens with a person, they're afraid to leave and they're afraid to talk about it because for me at that time, I was embarrassed. I didn't want people to know what was going on behind closed doors, so I hid it. And you should never have to do that. Never don't hide it, but fear will make you do things you could never imagine. And you know, I took, like I said, not everyone gets that chance to get away from their abuser. Your safety is first, and a lot of women and men get abused too. They fail to leave because of fear. But I took that abuse, and that abuse came with a lot of PTSD moments. Oh my God, and long nights. But I survived. That's what I'm saying. I survived. This isn't like a TV lesson. This was real life story. It was a real life lesson. You know, I had been hurt. I had been scarred, but I had to get the hell away from there. And as long as God gave me the life to wake up again and see that there could be change, I did that because change made me safer. And later, he was put to jail, thank goodness. And I was so glad because then I felt a security of safeness that he couldn't come back and hurt me no more. And again, some of us are not that lucky. But when he went to jail, somewhere between my pain and my tears, I found myself again. It took a while. Trust me, it took a while. And I understand that loving somebody, when you're loving somebody, it doesn't mean you have to tolerate their destruction. You can love someone, but if their destruction is causing you, let that love go. And most importantly, I had to learn to love me again. And you can learn to love you again because if somebody spends 95% of your life around you telling you you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not this and you're not that, eventually you start to believe it. You start to believe it and you believe it and you believe it. Now, 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 did he try to come back? Of course he did. Of course he did. But guess what? I wasn't having it. And that's also a strength because a lot of times abusers will try to come back, you know. And I had to learn that I had to walk away. I walked away with fear, but I walked away with the same thoughts of this would never happen to me again. And I thought that that was the part of my story, that that pain was something that I would always remember. But it also taught me a lesson that abuse, that shit hurts mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I had to run. I had to get up and run, and I survived. And today, when I look back at that, when I look at the younger me, I don't judge her. I don't judge the younger me. I hug her. I hug me because I was doing what I thought that I had to do that was best for me at that time. Domestic is not Domestic assault is not always is physical violence, and physical harm is serious. It is never okay. But abuse can be emotional. Abuse can be, where it takes you sexually abused, verbal abuse, financially abused, emotionally abused, and it get digital abuse. Like it's so many layers to it. And I know it, sometimes if you don't understand that, it sounds like someone saying to you, "You're too sensitive," or "Nobody else is gonna want you," or "Give me your phone," or "Don't talk to your family," or "If you leave me, you'll regret it." Now that's the one that I heard before. If you leave me, you're gonna regret it. No, if I leave you, when I leave you, you're gonna regret it because I am a blessing. There, and those are not signs. When someone says these type of things to you, those are not signs of love. Those are signs of control. And control is often the first thing, is the first warning sign when you're into a relationship. That control is really the first sign. And here's the truth about abuse. Usually it grows slowly, maybe being with jealous and they're looking at you and they're getting upset because you're getting attention because you're beautiful or you handsome. Now they're jealous. Then they criticize you all the time, and it looks like they're being in your mind because you're being damaged. You think their criticism looks like honesty. It doesn't look like honesty. The isolation looks like that they're protecting you, but they're not protecting you. They're isolating you. It's a thin line. The fear that fear has become normal to some people, and that's why so many people stay longer than they should. They're not stupid. You're not stupid. They are conditioned. They've been in a relationship so long that they are confused. They were happier with that version of that person that they could take advantage of. But when you become another you and a better you, they can no longer control you. They are hoping that the version of that person that that you fell in love with, you're hoping that that person comes back, but they're not coming back. If they've showed you who they were, they're not. But listen, you know, good love does not require fear. It does not. It does not require you to walk on eggshells. It does not require you to shrink yourself. And it doesn't require you to blame yourself for other people's manipulations. Do not blame yourself for that. If someone scares you and then calls it passion, that's abuse. If they scare the hell out of you and then want to make love to you, that's that's abuse. If someone controls you and tries to control all your choices and what you're doing and how you move, that's dominating you. Watch out for that. It's not okay. It's okay to express yourself. It's okay to give me your opinion, but it's not okay for you to change who I am. And a lot of times that happens, you know, they don't care no more and they start to accept those things. Well, maybe relationships are supposed to be this way. Maybe things are supposed to fall this way because maybe I'm a bad person and the actuality is you're not a bad person. Just maybe the person that you're dealing with is not the person for you. Now, one of the questions people had asked me again, when I was going through my abusive past, they would say, Lavonda, did you tell anyone that you were being abused? Did you tell your parents? Why didn't you just leave? And yes, those are all common questions that I had to ask myself. But during those times, I didn't tell anybody. And I'll say this again, and I don't want you to be like I was. I didn't tell anyone because I was worried. I was embarrassed. I knew that it would hurt my family if they knew what was really going on. But I also didn't think nobody would believe me because, this guy met my family. They liked him. So I didn't think no one believed me. And so I carried that shield. And once he got comfortable, the abuser got comfortable with you not telling how he's treating you, the abuse continued to roll because now he's comfortable because there's nobody on the outside telling them, hey, this is wrong. It's not there. They have all control of you. So you have to be careful for those. And women, we can do that too. Women can be controlling over their spouses as well, over their mate. But I when people say, "Well, why'd you let him hit you?" It's not like I was sitting around saying, "Hey, come over here and hit me in the face. I want to know what that feels like." No, it was never that. You know, um, I guess I really didn't want people to know what was really going on because you kind of hope for something that's not there. You hope that they become a better person. You hope that the mistakes that they keep saying that you're making. It's hot in this room, guys. gosh, the mistakes that you're making that they're not sitting here and making you feel like they have to have control of it because you made one little mistake. We are all have made mistakes in our life. You know, I mean, come on. I was 110 pounds. He had to be 220 pounds. There was no way in hell I was going to whoop his ass. But running, I got out of that situation. I was like wrestling with him was like a whole weight class. Like it was horrible wrestling with him, but I'm joking. But because I wasn't able to deal with the painful things back then, but now I look back and it's like, I can look at what I've been through and I can help other people who've been through it too. Because the bottom line, I was embarrassed. The bottom line is I didn't want anybody to know that I was getting hurt. And that's something people needs to understand about domestic violence is that getting away isn't easy for some people. Fear clearly scares a lot of people from that situation. And let me be clear, making excuses for the bruises, I done that. That's not a relationship. That's building on something that's going to be something more worse because love isn't supposed to require you to cover your story. That's not love. Love is supposed to be, not where you're getting bruised or, you find that, some women and some men, they get bruised, but like, oh no, what happened? Why you got that mark? And then they say the famous thing, yep, I bumped into something. Why you look so sad? No, I'm not sad. I'm actually really happy and you're dying on the inside, but they had no idea and people have no idea what you're going through. And I realized that if I had not took that leap to leave that relationship or not tell anyone, I may not be here today to tell you guys my story. But I learned a hell of a lesson in that season. I had to grow, I learned that I grew from experiences. And those lessons taught me that for the next relationship I get into, there's no way, because I would know these signs. You can watch for those type of things and see those patterns. And after a couple of years, um, I walked into my journey and I became better. Now I can, if I see something like, you can meet someone and they are wonderful, good person, but they have the same trace of something that you already dealt with. So and if that didn't make you happy, you leave it alone. And that's what I did. And before you knew it, I was walking into the relationship as a new woman, not the woman that was before, you know, because power changes power. Understanding that controlling isn't love, okay? Remembering awareness changes everything when you are aware of what's going on. That changes everything because it happened to me, you know. I talk about my story because maybe it can help someone else recognize their own situation before it's too late to protect them. You shouldn't have to hide anything. Don't hide your pain because it's only to protecting the abuser. The right relationship will not require you to hide. It won't make you afraid. You will be very, very happy because I survived it. I learned from it. I grew from it. Most importantly, I learned myself. Once you truly know your worth, life shines so much different. You feel like you're going into your purpose when you know your worth. And the most important part, if you are in danger, your priority is safety first. Safety first, always. Now, I did find a few hotline outlets available for anybody that would like these numbers. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is a 1-800 number, 1-800-799-7233, or you can text 8878. And they also have a chat line. I know some people are like, well, what does a hotline can do for me? Well, the purpose of the hotline is essentially they use tools to help survivors so their voices can be helped and their voices can be heard and they can live uh, um, a domestic free life from abuse. So I think that's a great outlet. Self love. I mentioned self love awareness. Let's talk about it. What do you think self love is? I think for me, self love is loving myself. It's being kind to myself. Self love is deeper than just a bubble bath. which feels good, by the way, and singing good songs and keeping a positive, which that all works great, but it's much deeper than that. Self love is how you treat yourself when nobody's watching, how you treat yourself after the pain, like when you're going through something. How do you talk to yourself when you're going through that pain? And how quickly do you believe that you deserve better? You know what I mean? Because self love says, I matter, my feelings matter, my boundaries matter, my life matters. When self love is abused and it's not used, self love, or when your self love is low, it makes it easier for you to tolerate for people to disrespect for you because you're feeling low about your self love. So abuse of any kind is easier to tolerate, not because you want the pain, no, but because you started doubting yourself and your worth. You start asking questions like, maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I should be more patient. Maybe this is just how relationships go. No, that is not how relationships go. Healthy love does not make you question your worth every day. Okay? Healthy love does not make you abandon yourself to keep someone else calm. Self love meanings, you're learning to recognize what feels wrong, even when it feels familiar. Okay? And that's powerful because sometimes what hurts the most is not the stranger on the outside of that door. Guess what? It's the voice inside of us telling us things that we have to accept and that we deserve less than what we deserve. Instead of telling us, you know, how how do I get from this? You say, so how do I build self-love? I say start small. Keep promises to yourself. Rest when you're tired. Speak kindly to yourself. Stop calling yourself names that you wouldn't call somebody that you truly love. You know, you can, another ideal is I journal a lot. You can journal a lot to show your self love. You know what? I did this today. That's self love. I got up out the bed and I did this. Journalize about it, pray about it. And most important, believe this. Leave what hurts you. Leave what hurts you, okay? You're not selfish. Believe me, leave what hurts you. It is not a selfish move. It is self respect. It is self respect. You know, set your boundaries for yourself and for others. And I feel like that can be a success. And then here we go with the self discipline awareness. Now, let's get into that. A lot of people didn't understand what I was talking about because self love without self discipline can stay the same feeling, meaning self love turns into actions, right? Self discipline helps you where you might have been quick to follow a crowd of people. And if you don't have self discipline, you might follow that crowd of people. But if you do have self discipline, that same crowd of people, you'll end up being the head of that crowd and not the tail. Because you know that through life, you want to always be ahead and not the tail. Ahead of the game, not behind the game. So once you get self discipline, you got it all together with your self love and your self discipline. You know what? Self discipline helps you save money when you have self discipline. It helps you attend, groups that you might need to go to. It helps open your eyes to a whole nother world because now you are allowing yourself to have that discipline, which means you make wiser choices. You're setting better boundaries and you're keeping them. You're not just setting them, you're keeping the boundaries for yourself and for outside people you know and you're not only saying to yourself I deserve better. You're not only saying it, but you're acting like it as well. And then not saying I'm done and then going back saying that I'm done, and now you're creating a plan for the next situation, for the next event in your life. Because guess what? That's self-discipline. When you have it, man, it is amazing, right? And sometimes self-discipline might look like blocking numbers. It might look like changing your passcode. It might look like saving important documents that you have to go back to later. It might mean reaching out, to your local sources. It might mean building a support team before you even need one. Discipline. Now, and I don't want you to think that discipline means you're paranoid, because it doesn't. This is preparation, and preparation creates power, right? You prepare yourself for it, and once you present it, you have the power. And here's something some people miss: discipline is not a punishment, right? Discipline is your protection. It protects your peace, it protects your future, and it protects your healing. Breaking the cycle, meaning if you grew up in a house around chaos or a lot of emotionals, a lot of neglect, a lot of abuse, and later in life that can become your norm. But that does not mean, because you grew up that way, that does not mean that the healing has to do that same place in your future. Just because you grew up one way, it doesn't mean that it has to be that way. Those are life lessons. Like I learned this lesson, but this lesson was even better. And I'm farther with this lesson, because breaking cycles start with awareness. What am I tolerating because I'm afraid? No. Am I tolerating it because I don't want to repeat these same pains again? You don't want to repeat it because it's familiar. And then, bam, here comes self love. Self love says, I can do, I do not have to earn the basic respect, right? I, and if I'm where I feel safe, that's what self love tells you. I don't have to prove my worth to people, places, or things. You don't have to prove your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And then comes self discipline. I will choose a different habit. I will choose a safer people. I will choose truth over, denial. I will choose my future over the fear, right? And that's how cycles end. Not overnight, not perfectly, but step by step, decision by decision, boundary by boundaries. And, I wanted to send a message to all my survivors. I am a survivor. And if nobody's told you this today, let me be clear. You are not broken, or you are not beyond repair. You are not too damaged. You are not too damaged to heal. You are not too late to start over. You are allowed to leave what hurts you, even if other people don't understand that yet. You are allowed to do that. And if you're supporting someone or someone else who may be experiencing domestic violence, just listen. Listen more than you speak. Believe them. Help them. Think about their safety for them. And sometimes that one steady person can make everything different. Just having that one person that you could talk to could change your whole world in moments, seconds, and minutes. So if you so remember this: domestic violence awareness helps you see danger. Self love helps you value yourself, and self discipline helps you protect your life that you deserve. You don't need permission to get boundaries, and you don't need to go silent to be strong. The strength is telling the truth. The strength is in your truth. Strength is asking for help. Strength is rebuilding a life where peace felt like it was trying to be take away from you. Um, So before I close today, remember again, I truly feel blessed for today. And I thank you all for joining me. I love you guys for being a part of the Here and Now show with me. Which I do want to remind you guys that in early September, I will be having my merch for the Here and Now podcast. So make sure that you like it. maybe subscribe, maybe buy it. I would love for you guys to buy the merch for the Here and Now show. Um, and if this message that I spoke today, um, if it touched you, or if you just taking small steps at a time, you should type in the bottom, I choose me. And I'm saying do that as a declaration of your self worth. Share it, share it with someone else. Feel free to share it, comment, and subscribe. Because this videos, and if you guys want more videos about boundaries and power personal growth, then turn on your notifications because your life does matter. Your safety matters, your healing matters, you know, and healing starts the moment that you decide that you matter too. When you decide that, your healing matters as well. So, you guys, this has been a show. We finally made it. I have to be honest with you guys, I was a little skeptical on this topic, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. God is good, God is blessed. And I thank all of you guys for tuning in. But you guys know that the conversation goes on for you guys. So if you have any questions or any comments, feel to leave it in the question box. There's no judgment here. It's just straight vibes, no pressure. If you just want to say hi, you know, Floor, if you come back and I'm back, I just had to give him some snakes some food, and I've met someone that likes snakes. I don't know a lot about snakes. I'll tell you that. I'm actually kind of scared of snakes. But I have some questions that were asked, and if you guys feel like you want to answer these questions, feel free to leave it in the comment box. I'd love to hear your answers. What's the craziest thing you've ever done because you thought you was in love? Oh, okay. What's the craziest thing I've ever done because I thought I was in love? Went to go work at a job uh, that my crush worked at, right? And I kind of got the job there. I guess I was kind of being a stalker. But that I thought, uh, well, I was in love. I was one. It was a one-sided relationship. You ever had one of those just one-sided? You think it's two-sided, and you're the only one in love. That was the case for me. How embarrassing, but yeah, um, that was probably the craziest stuff that I've ever done. And I'm still doing. I probably still do some crazy things when you think it's the fact of love, I guess. The next question was, what is your biggest I should have kept my mouth shut moment? Oh, what is my biggest I should have kept my mouth shut moment? I've had so many of those. I should have kept my mouth shut on a lot of things. But as a human being, sometimes it's kind of hard to hold water for me anyway. I think it was a birthday party. It was supposed to be a surprise birthday party. And my big mouth ass um, told the person who it was the surprise was for. Not only did I do that to add insult to injury, I even told them their gifts. God, I can't keep secrets. I am horrible at keeping secrets. That's why you shouldn't keep secrets. Secrets doesn't make friends. I'm not good in secrets. I just not. Again, if you guys have any questions or any comments, feel free. Um, the fourth question was, what's something your ex taught you? Oh, not to go back, to stay far away, to stay far away from you. But I have had people I've dated essentially where we dated, broke up, and we actually became really good friends. Huh. But then there's that issue of it's kind of like make up your mind. If you guys are broken up, you're broken up, and now you're kind of being in and out of a relationship because if you're trying to move forward, right, to meet someone else, and you still have your ex sitting at your dinner table eating breadsticks while your new associate is sitting there trying to figure out why he's at the table or why she's at the table. I don't know. Some things you just don't want to let go, perhaps. I don't know. But one thing my ex taught me is to not to go back. hmm Taught me what lying looks like and cheating And hey, we're not. I'm not bashing. I'm not gonna bash him or anything. Good guy. Good guy. Just real friendly. You know, good guy. Friendly. Good guy though. So you guys, I guess that I am going to cast off here. It is so hot in the Midwest right now. It is a heat advisory. On my way in here, I got jumped by the heat. Like I come outside my door, get in my car. When I open my door, I got jumped by the heat. I'm talking about all 96 degrees. Damn, it felt like it was melting my face. It was so hot. So what do you do on hot days like this? I don't know. Go swimming, but I can't swim. But I put my feet in the water. Yee. You know, but again, thank you all for listening and subscribing. Thank you for spending 45 minutes with your girl. I know that sometimes you guys may come into this platform and wonder what the hell I'm talking about. Well, I just take life for what it is, and I want you to know that your mistakes don't determine who you are. They are your lessons, and you grow through them. And you don't want to go back to those lessons. You don't want to go back to this. It's what they told you. So thank you guys for tuning in to the Here and Now show. You are blessed. I'm blessed. I feel great. I'm going to get out of this library now and make my way to the car and get in some air conditioner and think of a good meal. I love you guys. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys Thursday.